Listen, one of the greatest problems of our country today, jobs. Young people are roaming the streets without jobs. Now, for you to get jobs, you need to invest. It's only investments that can create jobs. Without investment, there will be no jobs.
The Senate hasn't made this amendment as well. So as it is right now, just the House of Reps has seen the need and they've gone ahead with that. There is still the Senate, the executive arm of government, perhaps that would also need to, okay, no, I don't think they need to assent to that anymore. When the amendment is done by both arms of government, by both chambers of the National Assembly, it becomes law. But the Senate is yet to...
Yeah, that's why we're hopeful.
Do its own amendment.
We're hopeful.
So why do you say this is unilateral?
If it goes ahead and becomes law, okay, then it is unilateral. Okay? Because the agreement specified differently.
What did the agreement specify?
Agreement specify that, let me repeat, that for you to change the law, right, you need to sit. The government, that is, not an arm of government, the government, sit with its representative, that in this case NNPC, and then the rest of the shareholders to say, this is what we would like done. There'll be a discussion and an agreement. Simple.
So the NLNG must agree? Is that what you're saying, that the executive arm of government must be there, the NNPC must be there, which definitely is representing the NLNG, and if they do not agree, then, you know, it won't work.
Well, but at least that's what the process prescribes. If it is done, and then there's a disagreement, I'm sure they will find a way to agree.
And this is a process just for the NLNG?
This is a process that is in the law, that is the act of the National Assembly. And we're saying, look at your law. Look at your law. Just follow your own law. Now let me say a few words about, Niger Delta, because I heard the gentleman and all the talk about Niger Delta. I come from the Niger Delta. One of our greatest problems is gas flaring. Sometimes we cannot tell the difference between night and day. I don't want to talk about all the devastating effect that has on us as people and our habitat. This is the only hope for putting out those flares. That's the one we're stabbing at. Let me also say this. This company has the potential for 7 and 8, using the 7 and 8 trains, to employ 18,000 people in the Niger Delta to build the trains. That is what we are stabbing at. We're stabbing at trying to eat the cake that has been baked. Everyone is struggling to eat the cake that has been baked. What about effort at baking the cake? If you love the Niger Delta so much, what about Brass LNG? It's been sitting there for donkey years. Why not enable its establishment? This will be the biggest present to the Niger Delta. What about OK LNG? Why are we trying to pine away rather than expand? The gentleman, I think one of your people mentioned Qatar. Indeed, what did Qatar do? Qatar merely expanded. Continued to expand the cake. But rather than do that, we are focused on sharing to nullity what we think we have now. Now, let me address questions of unfairness also. Notice that there is something around this amendment. There's something around it. Look closely. The Supreme Court of the land, because this case, and then took it to court, it went from the lower courts to the highest court of the land. For those who really know law, and Supreme Court ruled in favor of Nigeria LNG. Now, having ruled in favor of Nigeria at the highest court of the land, there's no other court to take it to. We then go to the National Assembly to amend the law so that we could win. This is a dangerous precedence. Let me also say...
We asked, sorry to interrupt you, but we did ask Mr. Oranta about that case that went up to the Supreme Court. And I remember Chamberlain asked him if this is not an attempt to go through the back door. He said that what the Supreme Court ruled on was the law as established, the law established in the NLNG, which states that it cannot contribute the mandatory 3% as stipulated by the NDDC Act. Some people say that this looks like it's a very simple dispute. If the NLNG Act was done before the NDDC Act, and somehow the NLNG was preserved or exempt from paying this 3%, all that you have said, is it because of just this 3%?
I explained to you that this is not just 3%. It's cracking through, it's knocking through the guarantees and assurances.
How?
Because you had to delete those guarantees and assurances, which doesn't allow you to amend the Act, before you can insert anything. That is the agreement we reached as a government.
So are we saying, because you agree that this Act at some point could be amended?
Yes, and the Act also shows you exactly how it ought to be amended, based on the magnitude of investments that were made at the time.
But the profits for those investments must have been reaped by now.
Good, great argument. But bring it to the table. Follow your own law. What's so difficult in that?
Do you see a situation whereby the NLNG will challenge this in court? This amendment in court? If you say that a law is not being followed, and the National Assembly, the House of Reps more specifically, is not following due process in amending the law in terms of how the law stipulated must be amended, is it something that the NLNG will consider challenging in court?
Well, I think that will be a question that the shareholders would have answers to. But let me say a few things more about unfairness. I mentioned the Supreme Court. I also want to let you know that there are so many companies who are processing gas, who are purchasing gas, okay? Fertilizer companies, petrochemical companies, electricity companies. None of them is targeted for this 3%. NLNG, pull him down. NLNG is targeted. Why? Think about it. Think about it. And you also mentioned 3%. Let's be fair. NLNG doesn't produce anything. The spirit of the NDC Act is such that you pay, you recompense the community from where you produce. That's the spirit of the Act. Now, NLNG doesn't produce anything from the Niger Delta. NLNG buys the gas. Now you're asking it to pay for recompensing the community for producing gas. It doesn't produce gas. So people need to be clear that let's not shout over these issues. The facts are there. And let me also say, just to land on this, the producers of the gas already pay 3%. So you produce gas, you already pay 3%. I come and buy the gas, and therefore, you've already built in your 3% into my purchase of the gas. So I buy it from you. I go and I turn it into liquid and I sell. Okay? Then you come to me again after taking from you. You turn around to me and say, okay, bring another 3%. Double taxation. It's unheard of. It's preposterous. But that's what the case is.
Well, this is definitely arguments that you can present, but some people will argue that right now the NLNG is a company doing business in the Niger Delta. It's made quite a bit of profits from if we're to go by the taxes that it's paid to the federal government, especially profit after tax, and that some of the laws, the amendment of the laws that people are asking, the people of the Niger Delta seem to be unanimously asking, because they say that they're unanimous in this. Even Bonny, the community where you operate,
let me just a moment,
seems to be in agreement.
I'm glad you mentioned. I'm glad you mentioned Bonny. But we need to get that referendum. I don't know where you got that from, but that's absolutely false. Anyway, but let me say this to you, okay? Now you mentioned Bonny.
I'll let you clarify. I'll let you clarify Bonny when we come back from this break. I'm sorry that we have to go on break now. Please stay with us.